and welcome to the Listening Post's unboxing channel on YouTube. Today it is with the greatest pride that I am getting to share with you the unboxing of a McIntosh MA12000 Integrated Amplifier. McIntosh have been producing some of the most prestigious solid state and valve power amplifiers, preamplifiers and integrated amplifiers that our industry has. The previous model, the MA12000, was deemed the best integrated amplifier in the world, and to one-up it, they take their valve preamp, they take their 300 watt power amplifier, they put it in one box, they tweak it, they hot rod it, they make it the best they ever can, and they release the MA12000 valve preamp, 350 watt power amp, stunning power, stunning control, stunning features, DA2 DAC, asynchronous USB, HDMI, all of these things from an input perspective, along with balanced and single-ended, and the quality is second to none. This statement piece is the reason I'm so proud to share it with you today. McIntosh's amplifiers are massive. They're renowned for it. Their biggest pieces are banded together with steel bands to ensure that the box and everything like that remains in one piece in transit. And so it's a challenge nuggeting this thing around, moving it around in any warehouse environment, let alone transporting it internationally. So the banding helps. And that's where we're going to start. And get rid of that. And the process is relatively straightforward if you've got the right tools. Chop them. Pull them through carefully, avoiding potential disaster around you, and look, potentially cutting your hands. The banding is utilised as part of McIntosh, and you'll see it. You'll see how elaborate all of this packaging is. They ensure that everything arrives to you, the end user, in absolutely perfect condition. And they know that not every carrier, not every freight company worldwide is going to take the same care that you and I might to carry this around. So once the banding is off, we can have a look at the lid of the box itself. As many in its category, we see McIntosh scannable information associated with the model number and serial number on all four corners. Stacked in a pile, all of those types of things. It's very, very easy to utilize, to see what it is and make it work. Okay, now lifting the lid, this is almost square, so you either rock it or get a little bit of help. Because sliding it off, once it sort of gets off square, is actually really, really difficult. So grabbing a friend, lifting it off evenly is probably the best idea. What we see is an elaborate amount of packaging to ensure the double box, so the outer box I've just removed has an inner box inside. There's massive foam to protect the top and bottom, sides, and then additional sort of firmer white closed cell foam for the front and back. Once removed, of course, all of this packaging sort of folds away, and it gives us the opportunity to sort of slide and roll it. It's extremely heavy. This is, maybe 50 kilos. So sliding it and getting rid of this packaging is, again, hard work. Even the boxes are so well built that they become heavy. Now, once it's out of the outer box, we get to kind of see an inner box that's kind of boring, to be honest. The inner box has no emulation of model or serial number information, and no hint as to the elegance of the product inside. As we sort of shuffle to keep it in view, the first thing that you see is a user manual. Now this is hugely comprehensive. The user manual features every element of its setup so that you can dial in using the setup menu, navigate through. You can name inputs, you can turn off unused inputs, you can do everything all within the amplifier's setup. There's home theatre bypass or 12-volt triggers that can be allocated. There's inputs and outputs. There's gain and other settings for the phono preamps. Everything, and it's beautifully explained in the user manual. There's an additional piece of closed cell foam on the top, and it's simply to ensure that the product is sort of sandwiched and wedged inside its packaging and cannot move. Opening up some of the flaps and having a look, we see a massively deep and heavy amplifier. We see a McIntosh power cable. It's quite long. It's got a nice firm plug and socket, and McIntosh's sort of quite iconic remote control. It's the same remote seen in all of their integrated amplifiers, and it's sealed in bubble paper, and a couple of quick nicks see that easy to open. The remote runs a set of AAA batteries, and then the remote itself. Now it's beautiful, and once the batteries are in, it's extremely elegant and easy to operate at full function. And look, as always, hang around for some close-ups. I'll take some of this so you can kind of get a good look and feel. At the back is the last little sort of accessory. Now, this is a McIntosh branded sort of tool. It's a little plastic tool. It's designed to help tighten the binding posts if you are utilising spades or bare wire. But it has a second purpose, and that's to allow for the shipping platform or wooden sort of foam form underneath to be removed easily as well. Now, removing this is always a challenge. It's so heavy and that it's sort of a process of rocking it off the cardboard on its wooden packaging and then getting rid of the cardboard. Now once there, it's relatively straightforward using the handles and the corners to be able to sort of roll it, very, very heavy, roll it over and show the freight wood that is utilised to help hold it in place. Now getting that, again you could use a little plastic tool, but for the purposes of speed, I'm going to utilise a drill. And removing that wooden plate, you see the care and attention that they've actually added. It's scalloped to nestle into the front, as well as having those 4 predetermined locations to ensure that absolutely everything nestles in and it cannot move in freight. Now, again, moving this thing is difficult because of its simple mass. It is so heavy and so big, you have to be very, very careful at each step. So I'm going to pause and just nick open the bag and slip it over. And we start to see the first look of this beautiful piece. Taking the oversized bag off is relatively straightforward if you take your time. And we get to see for the first time how beautiful this amplifier is. Careful to remove the desiccant bag, which is in a little protective sleeve. A simple nick, you could probably undo it, but for the speed I'm just going to nick it with a craft knife. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is a departure over some of the more standard design. As I tilt it up you'll see. McIntosh's the best, the most prestigious amplifiers they produce now have an iconic circular ring in the middle. It's a delineation. It's kind of like saying, hey, this is the best we can do. And this signature amplifier is absolutely stunning. Looking at the top, we see a basic circuit design in the back section here, showing the inputs and outputs and all of those types of things. We see a model number, the MA12000 Integrated Amp. We see the autoformer output transformers labelled, and we see the basic tidal harmonic distortion and other measurements on the top. It's a departure from the design that we've seen in previous ones, which see three sort of transformers, one being the input power transformer and the other two being the output transformers. What we also see is the large heat sinks with McIntosh's logo in them. Very deep and tall, of course, because of its amplification. Looking at the front, it's relatively simple. The massive handles, of course, are there to ensure that we can actually move this around. We see the main volume control and input selector, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 EQs. The spectrum can be easily managed for a little bit of brightness in the room or some sort of crackle off your turntable. You can tweak it if required. It also has a button on the front allowing you to turn off the equalization. Looking at the front, we see the iconic VU meters that we're familiar with. And please again hang around for some photographs, because the now iconic valve preamp is worth hanging around to see it glowing in its fineness. It is absolutely beautiful. On the front we see a basic introduction of a headphone socket, although it is extremely well thought out and sounds lovely. And we see the ability to turn on and off a couple of selectable outputs. The unit can of course be utilised in many other applications if required, and you can use the DAC for example, and output to another, all of these types of things, and you can select that on the front. You've also got the ability to turn on and off the equalization, as I implied, a mute button in the main power. It's a combination of these inputs and selectors that allows you to navigate the setup menu as well. Spinning it around carefully, we see its depth. This is by no means a small amplifier, but it's at the back that we kind of see so much more. I alluded to some of the inputs and outputs that this model now has. Well, we get an opportunity to see them. Firstly, the outputs being autoformer outputs, there are multiple taps off that transformer to ensure that you get the maximum power and control over the load. These have 8, 4 and 2 ohm outputs along with a common. It's very straightforward to remove one of the banana plug caps with your fingertips, and it's emulated on the right output over to this side. It's here beside the right speaker output that we see McIntosh's stunning DA2 modular DAC. McIntosh have realised, of course, that it's the digital realm that seems to be moving the fastest, and so for years have introduced a modular design in their integrated amplifiers and preamps. The DA1 is stunning. The DA2 is a lift in performance yet again. It adds an HDMI input, but it's the MCT, which couples so brilliantly with their matched transport, that is probably the highlight of it. It's 32-bit, it's 386 kilohertz. It's absolutely stunning from a performance perspective. It's quad balanced. It's an 8-channel quad balanced DAC, reference quality in an integrated amp. So it's superb to see that investment that they have made. Beside this modular DAC we see a few other things associated with kind of making the most out of the amplifier. There's a service port for software updating and monitoring purposes, and your data and control inputs and outputs. That allows for trigger control, it allows for communication between matched McIntosh amplifiers and other devices, as well as the ability to select the theatre bypass by turning on a theatre amplifier and using its 12-volt trigger to turn this into a power amp. Beneath those we see a set of balanced outputs and 2 simply labelled balanced inputs. Again, because you can allocate and name these inputs, there's no need for them to have a proprietary label. You can change that at will. Beneath it is sort of a sub-chassis, and this is the analog or preamp stages. We see on this side the fact that they have got tunable moving magnet and moving coil inputs. two of them, a separate input for each, and a separate ground post for that too. The equalization and load can be adjusted on both moving magnet and moving coil in the setup. It then has the 6 single-ended analog inputs, of which they can be assessed or allocated as a theatre input as well. You see a set of bridging clips beautifully with the logo of the McIntosh on them. They can be pulled out should you want to add some form of tape loop or, I don't know, external device if required. Then it has a fixed output separate for all of its ins. The boring part, it's got a fuse, it's got an IEC power socket, and of course the brilliant feet and other things associated with it. So, this already iconic integrated amplifier, 350 watts, hybrid tube preamp with solid state power amp, absolutely stunning, brilliant in its build, perfect in every element. Unboxed here today, this McIntosh MA12000, shared with you with pride here at the Listening Post in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel.